And welcome back. South Bronx Unite brings together neighborhood residents, community organizations, academic institutions, and allies to improve and protect the social, environmental, and economic future of Mott Haven and Port Morris. South Bronx Unite helps communities in the Bronx who suffer from injustice daily. Our next guest has devoted years of uplifting and protecting communities in the South Bronx. Joining me now is the founding member of South Bronx Unite, Mychal Johnson. Good to have you in front of me again, my brother.
It's always
How's
a
everything,
pleasure.
man?
Blessed.
Blessed?
Yes, blessed.
How's
Happy
life
to
in
be
South
here.
Bronx, brother?
It's always, we are standing up and fighting back. We always find ourselves having to respond to different things that are happening and happening to us.
Right.
But we're trying to plan for things to be happening for us that we create on our own. So it's a lot of good work to be done. We're doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think about, the South Bronx area. If I go ahead, I look over there by Bruckner. I can go over there. I come over there by, right over there by the Willis Avenue Bridge.
Yes.
A lot of traffic coming through there.
A lot of traffic.
Right? And we know the Bronx has the highest asthma rate. We know the unhealthiness that is centered in the borough.
That's right.
But there's this environmental challenge, right? That I don't think that many times we pay particular attention to, or we don't pay enough attention to. How do you feel that we're dealing with the environmental challenge?
Yeah, the people who are experiencing it are paying attention to it, right? They're
Right.
breathing it in. Their children are running to hospitals because of it. They're sick or ailing. Not just the children, but also the seniors are really hurting. So what we're trying to do is push our elected officials and folks who are making these type of decisions that are top down, understand that they can't continue to do the same thing expecting different results. You can't say it's economic development and job creation when it's bringing in thousands of trucks through our neighborhood every day. You can't say it's good for us when you're reducing congestion maybe in Central Business District in Manhattan, but then we're taking the load of the trucks that are diverting from those tolls through our community, by our schools, where we live and breathe.
I need you to repeat that again, because I think there's a lot that's said just right there, that New York City's dealing with congestion pricing right now,
Yes.
right? That means that you have the opportunity to go down there, pay to be in downtown. That's the price you pay for where you go.
Right.
However, there's diversion.
That's
Right?
right.
And everybody's not going downtown.
Right.
Some people have stopped at parking or going other ways, and that ends up in your backyard.
That ends up in our backyard, right? That ends up in the east, in Harlem, upper Manhattan, like Washington Heights and others. But in the South Bronx, we have been the subject of diversions from tolls, right? You have the RFK Bridge, the Triborough, right? Folks are trying to get around that toll.
Yeah.
Where they go? They go through the South Bronx.
Yeah.
So it's already happening. So if the plan that the MTA is proposing with this congestion pricing project is successful, their plan on their own acknowledgement will bring 4,000 more vehicles through the South Bronx every day. That's not right.
Right.
We're already suffering. You already talked about the high rates of asthma. We're already considered asthma alley. We can't take more for the team.
Right.
They need to be taking some for our team, which is suffering disproportionately.
We get to the place where we call it environmental justice, right? How do you define environmental justice as it relates to the South Bronx?
If it ain't just, it ain't right, right? We see it as environmental racism, because this happened to black and brown people more than it's happened to people who are not of color,
Right.
right? We don't see them placed in these types of facilities in other folks' communities where we have power plants, we have waste transfer stations, where they handle all the Bronx waste in the South Bronx, in my neighborhood, right? Where we have 5 bridges and 3 highways, where we have the highest level of like heavy diesel truck intensive operations in the city happening through this one neighborhood. It's affecting our children's outcomes. Their cognitive development is directly linked to the air they breathe. So when you're talking about just asthma, we're talking about cognitive development, we're talking about occupational and educational outcomes. This is just generational hurt and harm. So justice is making sure we do things that are just and equitable, that we don't place everything in one community. That's not just, that's not equitable. So if we want it to be really justice, then you spread that burden out. You don't put it all in one community where you expect folks to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and keep being, the ones who go as the first responders, or what we called during COVID was the essential workers.
Yes, sir.
So we're essential workers, right? We're the ones that are going to be there when everybody else wants to take social distance. But what about when we need to live and breathe and have thriving outcomes and not just surviving but thriving.
Yeah. So a lot of conversation centers around pollution and environmental justice. So much so that it's attracted national attention, right? That when we look at what's going on across Bronx is considered one of the worst spots, one of the worst spots in the nation.
Yes.
So when you look at that, know that, and have become a voice for the voiceless in that, the response that I get is, we hear you.
Yes. But are you going to act on that?
All right then, right, there we go.
We
there
need
you
action,
go.
man.
Right.
Don't
right.
just hear me. Let's act on that.
Right. And so talk to me about that action. I mean, the song says it's been a long time coming. We know a change is going to come, but has change really come?
Well, we were talking about capping the Cross Bronx, and they talking about expanding it now in the same voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's not change. That's more the same.
Right.
That's why we have to work together. That's why we have to speak with a united voice. We have to vote with it, right? And we have to act on it together. Then they will start wanting to create change, because then we have the ability to either replace them as elected officials or really show the power of our collective body, right? Our people, I call them the sleeping giant, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't keep sleeping if we want something to change, because nothing comes to us sleeping but dreams, right?
Oh wow, you said it right. You said it there. That's right.
But we need to make it happen, and only we can do that.
Talk to me about this. I'm glad I got you with me, right? I'm with a friend of mine. He's got some property down right there in the South Bronx. We go up to his place and we look out the window, and we were saying, it's a tale of two cities right here.
Yes, sir.
On one side of South Bronx, you have this new development, and then you look on the other side, right out the same window, and you see the projects, little or no improvement. How do you, put that into perspective? Because there is this tale of like two cities
In one community.
right in the one community.
Yes. It's like the old saying about crossing on the other side of the railroad track, right? So in our case, it's on the other side of the Deegan Expressway. So when you go south to where you see the Brookfield, the $1 billion development, and all the high rise coming up and market rate housing being produced, it's not for us. What it was doing is raising up rents and taxes, and can potentially displace us.
Right.
So we've been trying to do what's called like principles for private development, meaning that we have to hold these people socially responsible. Like, what are you going to do other than just take from us? You putting your building on our land, but what are you going to do about making sure that this community has some cohesion, has some economic opportunities, has some job creation? You have folks who work to develop build these buildings, work in the construction field, aren't able to live in those buildings, right? Were they being paid union scale wages? So these types of things we have to hold these kind of developers accountable for, to make sure they're socially responsible on environmental, jobs, health and wellness, community cohesion, creating real opportunities for the people who live there and not just taking.
So I want to ask the question that's really on my mind for a minute. I look down there, I see a lot of these new developments.
Yes.
I see a lot of places. They're vacant. Nobody's in them. What response are you getting? I mean, what? The people are coming? What are they telling you?
Well, I mean, people opened up businesses down there, and they're closing because they're expecting this big wave to happen. But it's too late to roll that back, right? They've now built on these spaces and these places. How do we make sure those places are deeply affordable for people who really need it, or a mixed range of incomes that really meet our needs in our community? We have people who are teaching in our communities, can't afford to live in those places, right? We have young professionals coming back from college and from universities who want to come back and live where they grew up at and can't afford to live there. Those places shouldn't be sitting there vacant. They should be building those places for our people who have a certain level of income need that needs to be met.
Yeah.
Not just a higher level, and not just all the way on the bottom either. There's a middle ground that needs to be met. We need a healthy reach of of where we can reach some of the need that's required for folks
Yeah.
to live in our neighborhoods.
At the top, it says you're the founding member of South Bronx Unite, right? When you look at where you are today, look at the issues that are germane to the South Bronx, you look at the fight, you look at the struggle. The question that I want to ask is, when it comes to the community, the South Bronx community, South Bronx residents, how many, I'm going to use the word, woke are there? Are we finding that the community is more woke to the issues at hand? Or are you finding that people are sleeping at the wheel?
I think people are resilient in our community. I mean, they've gone through a lot, man. Huh, brother? I mean, a lot, and still there. And
Right.
still want to be there.
Right.
Shouldn't have to go somewhere else to get what everybody else got, right? I'm talking about access to quality of life enhancements. We live in a community with 60,000 people, within 2.5 square miles. Very densely populated with one park. One park, St. Mary's. The rest are playgrounds that are asphalt. But we got an entire peninsula that was given to a developer off 106 acres of land, given for 99 years to one developer. No kind of public benefit. But we're working as a community now to saying this is what we want, right? So we are proposing, we're not just opposing. So our people are resilient and they're ready to fight and stand up and propose. I think we have to denormalize these situations. Can't nothing change? The only way things have ever changed in our society and the rights we have is all these come from us fighting together, standing up. If we didn't, we wouldn't be able to vote. Black people still be enslaved, right? Women wouldn't have the right to vote. No one would have a voice that they didn't fight for. So our community is ready. I think we just have to show them the way. We have to work together and not just hear them, but have action, right? It can't just be about talking about it. It got to be about being about it.
Right.
So we're trying every day to, build, support, organize, because it's really hard, and show our children and show those parents there's a way forward. We could do this.
So for the person who's out there watching right now saying, listen, what are some of the things, policy objectives, what are some of the things that you're advocating for right now that people need to be aware of and join the fight in? What would you tell them?
We're working on projects right now in the South Bronx, man. We're taking over and recovering back a property that was vacant since 2011. It was formerly the Lincoln Detox Center. It was formerly the People's Detox Center, created by the Young Lords and the Black Panthers to create acupuncture and Reiki for recovery rather than using methadone. They use holistic approach to health, to recovery. We won an RFP after doing a feasibility study. We're about to develop this property, create health, education, and the arts in this building, right? Reclaiming it for the community, create our own pathway towards better outcomes. Not expecting to come from the top down. They got to come from us because we are the experts. We live here. We know what we need.
Right.
But we have to propose that. We have to envision it, and they have to move towards that. And that same way with the waterfront we don't have access to, we created a waterfront plan, man, that was prioritized by the state in 2016. And we now push for EPA to fund it in to $20 million. Now with this new administration, those funds may not come through, but we now have a better plan, though. And we just keep on pushing.
And you talk about that better plan, right? Because the plan that existed, you had a lot of challenges with,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
But you came out with a better plan.
Yes.
And coming out with a better plan really was able to win the hearts of many. Now it's just a matter of just funding the plan.
Yes.
To the person that's out there that's thinking about activism and whether or not it's really worth it, you've been on the field. I use this word on this show a lot, and I know people who work with me know I use this word a lot. I say boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Right. That's what activists do. Right. You put boots on the ground. You know the work. You do the work. You're about the work. Right. And so, give me a little bit about those activism right now, and are you seeing more and more people put the boots to the ground, get to work? Because when you're dealing with poverty and you're dealing with so many things, you're trying to deal with sustainability. I'm trying to live my life. I'm trying to make it from day to day, and you want me to join a fight. And that fight can't take that energy away from me because I need this energy in order to survive. So sometimes I can't get in your fight.
Right.
Tell me what you were experiencing.
It's why we're fighting, who we're fighting for.
Right.
It's our children.
Right.
Right? They, of course, need somewhere to sleep, but they also need to be able to breathe. They need that. They need to have the same kind of outcomes anybody else has, and we're trying to work really hard to provide that for them, right? But if we aren't actively engaged in changing and creating that opportunity for them, it won't happen. no one's going to give it to them. I mean, we want our schools to be productive and create and provide them with really a deep education. But if we don't have a force in that, if we're not a force in that educational process, they may not get that education they need. And so we're trying to provide our community with the same thing. Like, we have to be civically engaged. We just can't care about where we sleep under that one roof, right? What happens outside of your door? What happens in your hallway or out front of your building, in front of your house? What happens on your street? What happens in your block? We can't just not pay attention. We can't just mind our own business. That's all our business, right? So we have to be involved. If you want to see something different, you have to create it.
Right. How do you balance the argument? Because I've had this conversation on the show, and the South Bronx has been right there at the forefront. I use the word gentrification.
Yeah.
Right? The person across the aisle from me says progression. Now, I will admit, I am for progression.
Yeah.
But how do you make the balance or the argument between progression and gentrification? Because we want to see communities look better.
Right.
But we want to also be included in the process.
Right. We got to create a process where we are the guardians of our own public trust. And what I mean by that is we've seen how public land has been used against us. Cross Bronx Expressway and others. Public land being built on with developments don't benefit us. What we saw as land has been that nucleus of the harm. That's been the main reason and how they've been empowering themselves over us. How can we take that back? So we created, and like others, we have 5 community land trusts in the Bronx and about 20 around the city, where community organizations are coming together who used to be CDCs, community development corporations like Nostradamus and others. They're now saying we're going to create community land trusts so we can come together and produce what we want. So we can remove public land from the speculative market, right? So we can now stop the cycle of gentrification by building what we want. We want deeply affordable housing. Let's get public land, let's get some land, and let's create our own opportunity. So there's a pathway forward, and that's what we're trying to do now. Use the many tools we got that affords us to keep us being able to stay. Have progression without gentrification.
Right. Being
Being able to be in the South Bronx and live there like you always have, building out community and culture and relationships that you've fostered for decades, right, and generations. Why you have to go somewhere else to find healthy outcomes? So that's what we're trying to do.
So I'll ask you the question. You know, like I said, you're the founding member, right? Yeah. With all the challenges that are, you know, we know about the air pollution, we know about the housing, we know about the crime, the quality of life, all these other things. Somebody's gonna say, bruh, you could pack up and go.
We can all pack up, then where are we?
Right.
But our children, a lot of us can't, right? So if we know we got air quality issues, you know what we're doing? We got 40 monitors around the South Bronx right now, about to put 25 more. We're gonna have a 65-node air quality monitoring network around from the Cross Bronx Expressway through the South Bronx. We got some in Riverdale, we got one in Riverdale, we got one in Governor's Island, we got one in Randall's Island, so we can know what the difference is. Right now we got people analyzing our data so we can better tell our story. So that's air quality, that's breathing.
Right.
So we're about actively changing that.
Right.
We're gonna help create legislation to stop the cycle of harm that's been placed on us. So that's active. That's being actively engaged in that one issue. Same thing with housing. Same way with community green space. We're trying to see what do we need to plug in at to solve our own problems. There's a lot to be done, but we go. It's incremental change, man. It ain't no video game.
Right.
Right. It ain't gonna happen right away.
Right.
It's gonna happen as we work towards it together, one step in front of the other, and we're seeing differences already.
I was reading this book recently. It's called Wicked Problems. Tell me how much time I got, because I don't have anything in my ear right now. How much time do I have? I gotta go? I was reading this book, Wicked Problems. I gotta leave on this one. But it talks about a wicked problem is a problem that may not necessarily be solved in my own lifetime.
Yes, sir.
And so for you, how do you feel saying I'm committed to it, even though this may go beyond?
We planting seeds for change.
That's why we bring him here. Mychal Johnson, founding member of South Bronx Unite. You got to come back, brother. I enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right.